Hello, dear participants. As an interpreter, I'm speaking on behalf of Professor Oleg Sorokin, the head of the National Ayurvedic Association in Russia. Today you will learn about the healing massage of the reflex zones of the feet. We recommend you to use VedaPulse massage module, which would help you to enrich your professional equipment and carry out massage treatment domiciliary. There are certain reflex zones on the feet that reflect functioning of organs. These zones, as an entrance points, convey information to organs through certain reflex connections that matches particular spinal cord segments. The influence can be handled by the acupressure. The masseuse uses aroma oils that match constitution type of a patient. You can find additional information about aroma oils in VedaPulse aromatherapy module. So, why we say that foot is a great reflex zone? There are certain points on feet that in Ayurveda is called marmas. Marmas are associated with treatment named prana chikitsa, when we use not only physical but also bioenergetic influence. Energy of the masseuse meets the patient's energy, and this produces a new impulse of energy. Many people ask, how can one influence subdoshas? And there are two ways to correct subdoshas imbalance. First one is herbal therapy, and the second one is marma therapy. There are several different marmas, such as Kshipra marma, that controls lymphatic system, Rasavaha shrotas, and the system connected with the distribution of prana in the body. Talahridaya marma is a good controller for Vata dosha. It manages Vata dosha through Apana Vata. If you learn more about these marmas and the rest of them, you will be convinced that foot is a great reflex zone. And another fact that tells us about that foot is an energy conductor is that traditional Chinese medicine also claims that there are many special channels on the feet that are responsible for functioning of certain organs. If you are talking about the abdomen channel, you can see the distal points E41 and E45 are located in this channel, and they have both relaxing and energizing effect on the organ. You can see here the main feet channels, such as the spleen channel with its reflex points, the bladder channel, the kidney channel, the gallbladder channel, and the liver channel that match certain reflex points. If we're talking about the modern understanding of the reflex theory in terms of classic neurology, we say that on foot we can find 20 different nerves that are in form of nodes and plexuses correspond to a spinal cord, thus forming ascending tracts of the somatic sensitivity. It means that there are many nerve endings that actually perceive and conduct our influence. They respond to pain, heat, touch, and so on. They turn mechanical heating influence into potential energy, and through the ascending tracts of somatic sensitivity they carry it to certain segments of spinal cord. In classic anatomy and physiology, there is a description of these very channels through which the information reaches spinal cord. First, information reaches spinal cord, then subcortical structures, the thalamus to be exact, and in the end it is projected to the cerebral cortex in a very special way. The main somatosensory projection takes place in the parietal gyrus. Here you can see so-called sensitive homunculus, by which we mean the location of sensitivity in the parietal gyrus. When you look at this picture, you should pay attention to the fact that face and hands are 50% of all the sensitivity projections that are streaming from the skin to the brain. Feet also have substantial share here. but the body itself has not much projections in comparison to face and hands and feet, which happen to be the main reflex zones. There are three plexuses in the vertebral column, such as a lumbar plexus, which forms the femoral nerve. It is also a sacral plexus, which forms the sciatic nerve, and a coccygeal plexus, which has a special connection with the sympathetic trunk and runs certain autonomic processes. Here you can see plexus lumbalis, or a lumbar plexus, which is formed of lumbar roots of spinal cord and even the 12th thoracic segment, and then it condescends to legs. And in this picture you can see the main zones of the innervation of the leg nerves. The foot also has innervation projection, presented by certain nerves such as a sural nerve, saphenous nerve, and medial lateral nerve. Thus we can see that the idea of reflex influence on feet has its natural scientific basis, that through the segments of the spinal cord we can affect the state of organs. Another important thing about the reflex massage is that you must have at least a brief idea about the skeleton of the foot. There are about 200 of bones in the human body, and 26 of them are the bones of the foot, and they form three sections: tarsus, metatarsus, and phalanxes. It is important to know the foot skeleton because we use scalotopy projection that connects the reflex zones to a particular bone, so it would make it easier to find the zone. The reflex zones are also projected in the joints of the feet. This type of influence has a peculiar mechanism. There are unique receptors called Golgi apparatus in ligaments, which when being affected produces very strong reflex. We can take a knee jerk as a vivid example of this type of reflex. When the neurologist strikes the knee with a hammer, Golgi receptors get a signal and carry it to the spinal cord, which in its turn commands to contact the muscle, and it makes a contraction. There is another type of receptors, and it is situated in muscles. Those receptors are called proprioceptors and have their own very sensitive innervation, and they also carry the signals to the spinal cord by the complex mechanisms, thus involving muscles in the process. You can see here the reflex zones of feet with the projection of organs giving a substantial response to the reflex massage. In my practice, I had this patient having a biliary colic attack, and we managed to stop the attack right there by affecting the reflex zones on the foot. And it shows how highly effective this method is. The projection of organs in the reflex zones of feet is based on the principles of the human body projection, where the spinal column is projected in the inner part of the foot, and the sides of the body are situated in the left and in the right feet accordingly. This is a common approach which firstly was used in traditional Chinese medicine, later in Korean medicine in the form of sujok, and in Tibetan medicine. In Ayurveda, there is a unique technique based on marma points. Now we are going to talk about the zones of the foot. There are symmetrical and asymmetrical zones. Asymmetrical zone can be situated only in one foot, as for example the heart zone in the left foot. At the same time, there is a liver zone in the right foot only. Reflex zones of head have this criss-cross nature. It means that reflex zones responsible for the left side of the head are situated on the left foot and vice versa. Responsive mechanism of the head reflex zones has this counter-lateral character, as a neurologist would say, which means that it finds its reflection on the opposite side. So if the person has a nasal blockage in one sinus, in order to have a direct reflex action, you need to work with the opposite foot. Different researchers showed that reflex massage changes the volume of the blood flow in the particular organ. This phenomena proves that this method really works. It has shown through a thermometry. Changes in the blood flow stimulate metabolic processes. So if, for example, you try to influence the functioning of abdomen through certain reflex zones, you can trace it how the temperature of abdomen will increase as a response to the manipulations with the foot. This is an incredible fact that proves that the whole system is really working. The increasing of the blood flow volume increases the microcirculation of the organ, thus enhances its trophism and brings it more plastic substances that accelerate reparative and regenerative processes, remove toxins, and so on. The microcirculation is also improving the drainage function of the lymphatic system. The lymph collects the excess moisture from the organ and takes out the part of toxins, freeing the organs from the endotoxic load. Smooth muscles, or the muscles of the inner organs, are also involved in the process of reflex influence. The pain that we feel when having a spasm is caused by contraction of smooth muscles of this organ, and reflex massage is a very effective method to reduce this tonus. Another fact that struck me is that the reflex massage causes an increase of leukocytosis infiltration in corresponding organ. And we know that in the immune system there are cytokines that control neoplastic transformations and many other important processes. Pain stimulation itself causes a substantial release of endorphins that are the self-made drug of the body that causes the balancing of the regulation processes. At the same time, catecholamine is one of the hormones produced by the adrenal gland, and the most famous of them, adrenaline, and cortisol glucocorticoid, for example, are the hormones that cause metabolic changes in the corresponding organs, and they also restore metabolic processes. Let's talk briefly about some massage methods. The first and the easiest method of influence. We bend the index finger, and with the band between the second and the third phalanxes, we start massaging the needed zone. At the same time, with the other hand, we're fixating the foot so it doesn't move. The second way is that we massage the needed zone with the pad of the thumb, embracing the foot with the massaging hand, and in some cases fixating it with the other hand. There are 8 methods of influence, and one of them is like tongs when you clench the needed area between the second and the third finger, and the thumb presses one on the second finger as a latch. It has a remarkable effect in case of cervical osteochondrosis. The effect is stunning, especially if there is a poor blood circulation caused by osteochondrosis. But you should apply the needed amount of the strength when pressing on the zone, so the patient would start feeling pain. Only in that case the influence would help. In general, there are 2 main methods of influence: strengthening and alleviation methods. Strengthening is connected with stimulation of functioning if needed. In case of hypothyroidism, the method of strengthening will have a toning effect. So in case of hypothyroidism, the method of strengthening is not desirable. It is better to use the alleviation method up to slightly noticeable pain sensation. Then it will have a sedative effect. There is a special formula which can help you to identify the needed strength of pressure. You should choose the adrenal gland zone and start affecting it till getting a substantial pain response. You should remember the amount of strength that you applied to trigger the pain. With this very strength you should press on other zones to have results. You should not only know the location of the zones, but also know how to affect them correctly. Beside all that, you can use the reflex massage as a very effective method of diagnostics. For example, if there is some undefined pain in stomach and you don't know if it is an intestinal or abdominal or liver disorder, you may carry out diagnostics through the reflex zones, and it would help you to detect by what organ all the discomfort is caused. There are two ways of diagnostics. Diagnostics through determining the state of organs by the pain in the corresponding reflex zones, and the other method is through examining the food. It may sound surprising, but in some cases the state of organ will find its reflection in the appearance of the corresponding reflex zone. Thus, if the organ was removed, you could notice a slight deepening in the area. Or in case of stomach and duodenum ulcer, you may find compactions of granular, thread-like nature in the zone. Also, when there is an internal bleeding in the organ, you would find the vascular changes in the form of dots or cobwebs in the zone. There are no strict contraindications for the feet massage. There are only contraindications relative to the physiotherapy contraindications. They are tuberculosis, acute bleeding, the acute phase of myocardial infection, or unstable stenocardia. As for pregnant women, you need to be careful with the amount of strength that you apply while massaging the foot. The pain barrier should be very low, so the massage would be more of a relaxing character. Too much of pain can cause tonus of the uterus. There are some principles of choosing the reflex zone. When choosing the zone, you should not focus on the disease, but on the target organs that are affected by the disease. For example, in case of hypertension, one may think that as hypertension is a disorder of vessels, we should influence the vessels, but it would be wrong. There are hypertension target organs, the organs that are affected by it. They are heart, kidneys, eyes, brain, vessels, and so on. So when the recommendations are being formed, these organs should be taken into account. There is a very simple approach such as massaging of all the zones of feet with affecting the key zone. The full massage means that we should work with all the zones on the left and right feet, providing a powerful restoring effect. The key zones are first of all the main reflex zones, and form the point of view of the traditional Chinese medicine, and from the point of view of the traditional Chinese medicine, they are the zone of kidneys, and it should be massaged in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end of the massage session. Other key zones are the zones which after the examination of the foot were identified as zones having pathological modifications and reflex zones connected with a target disorder. For example, in case of inflammation processes, we can influence the organs that can be important in terms of inflammation treatment, such as lymphatic glands, and so on. Besides, if you are able to assess the state of the functioning of the body through examining the channel system, the recommendations are to be composed based also on the work of organs that can correct the state. In order to make the massage even more personified, you can use information about a constitution type. Each zone is connected with a certain dosha type and subdoshas. Let's look at the example. When you click at the needed organ, you will notice the icon appearing with the name of the organ and its accurate location. and you will also see a suggested massage method. My recommendation to you is that you need to study all the 8 methods of massaging the foot. But while you are learning, you can use only thumb pad method in your practice. You can see here that this patient is a Kapha type person, and you can also see that the abdomen channel is imbalanced. That is why the recommendation first mentions reflex zones for the functional correction, with the constitutional type taken into consideration. The massage session should not last longer than 1 hour. The average timing is about 30 or 40 minutes. For children, seriously ill and elderly people, we reduce the amount of time. In case of chronic diseases, you should recommend the patient to carry out the massage at home. The total amount of sessions needed to see the results is from 7 to 10. Dear colleagues and other participants, thank you for your attention. I hope this webinar was useful for you and you will follow my recommendations. Goodbye.